What's going on, guys? We are back. Your top 10 players of 2016. And this list is starting to get more, what's the word? I can't even think of the word. I'm having a brain fart. Consistent? I don't know. Predicted with Markydooda in number 2 coming in. Captain of Flipside Tactics, one of the best players in the world, without a doubt, and has been one of the best players in the world since early 2015, and it hasn't stopped for him. Some other players, I think, have plateaued here or there, and then maybe lost a little bit to the crowd. And when I say plateaued, I don't necessarily mean their skill. It's just the growth of their skill, I guess, is a little bit less than maybe some other players that are coming up. But that's not really the case with Markydooda, one of the smartest players in the game. If you've ever seen some of his 1v1s, he's absolutely insane, and a lot of it is just trying to outsmart the opponents, or you'll see, like, crazy plays like him doing his power slide around Kernovi and stuff like that. Just a phenomenal player, as we can see here with him and Doomsy. Just, I'm not sure what that was, but Markydooda, number 2 on the best team in the world, in my opinion, and not even best team in the world, best team consistently in the world throughout all of 2016. Just a phenomenal player overall. Let's go over what he's done throughout the year. And we'll start all the way back. And if you have seizure stuff, like if that might happen to you, be careful after every single goal, because Marky is going to spam that reverse camera button. So just be careful. So we'll go right into it. Flip side, going into the Gfinity Invitational. Obviously, huge favorites there. They were the number 1 team coming into 2016. It was basically them and Crown and Jewels at that time. Crown and Jewels actually did have a decent chance, but usually when there's a competition that actually means a lot, you think that Flipside is going to show up. I think Flipside sometimes on these weeklies and stuff like that, I don't know if they care as much. They are more of a laid-back team, or they were at least with Mike Rules. I think they've gotten a little bit more serious now with Greasy. But generally, Flipside doesn't seem like they try as hard during these weeklies. And they wait till like the big time, and then they try and show up. But that could just be conjecture there, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they're just bad at weeklies. Who knows? But Gfinity Invitational, this is where the storyline started, where Flipside's like, you don't want to see him in a lower bracket. They actually got 4-0'd by Noble. And they finished with a 21-8 record, but they got 4-0'd by Noble to start. Then they finished off 21-4 throughout the lower bracket, including the grand finals. They went 9-0 the last 2 rounds, won 9 straight games. Plus, they obviously won the previous last game in their final before that, so 10 straight wins through the last 3 rounds. They defeated teams like SK Gaming way back in the day, if you remember them, Crown and Jewels, Spectral, MyXMG, and then Supersonic Avengers in the finals. Absolutely dominating performance. It's just they sometimes start off a little slow, and that has been consistent with Flipside. On RLCS day 1s, they only have a 2-2 record, but then they usually tear through it on day number 2. It just seems like they always start off a little slow. For RLCS purposes, maybe it's a little bit of nerves. I doubt that's the case in online finals and stuff like that, but it just seems like a trend that's going on with the Flipside boys. But then they go into the RLC Pro League. Again, one of the favorites, probably the favorite at that time. Crown and Jewels kind of fell off a little bit, I thought, going into the into that tournament, but they finished with a 31-22 record, 19-11 during the regular season. They defeated Spectral, Noble, Crown and Jewels, which is why I think Flipside was the one that was more overrated. Sorry about that. Windows update. Fun. MyXMG and SK. Then they defeated in the playoffs 2 of the North American teams that have been around basically forever. Was Untethered and Kings of Urban at that time. Took them both down in 7 games, though. Very close sets. The one surprising result was when they played Kings of Urban. Every single game off host was won by the team that was off host, which is huge when you consider Europe to the East Coast. That's at least 100 ping right there. So that was a very surprising result there. But they wound up taking both very close sets, but then they go all the way to the finals. Had, I believe, a 4-1 lead, and then Crown and Jewels came all the way back to win it 5-4. And one of the best series ever played in Rocket League history, in my opinion. Phenomenal series there, and Flipside just barely not getting the win, and for at least a little while during 2016, it seemed like they were always going to be the bridesmaids, but they're always there. That's one of the things that's most consistent with them. Sure, they might come in second a lot, but it's always to, like, some other team. It's not the same teams coming in first. They're definitely the most consistent team by far in all of Rocket League, and they have been forever. They had the longest active roster right after the Pro League ended is when I left iBuyPower Cosmic, and then they had the longest active roster. They had the longest active roster in Europe for forever, it seems like, going into April through June. And again, huge favorites going in to the RLCS. But then a team named Weedham Girls showed up and started taking Flipside down here or there, which you can see here with Rocket Royale Internationals. They came in first only one time out of their 6, and third twice. Only 3 podiums. Excuse me. Not that great. And then qualifier 1 of RLCS. They show up when it matters most, beating Weedham Girls in the finals 4-2. They also destroyed Mock at 4-0 in the semifinals. Had a phenomenal regular season, 24-11. Only finished 2 games behind Weedham Girls. But that didn't matter, because then when they met in the finals, they got those 2 games back with the 4-2 victory over them, getting some much-needed qualifier points. And it just seems like Flipside, generally, they show up in the big moments. They haven't showed up at every single moment, but they are definitely the most consistent team by far. And just absolutely phenomenal. I didn't think this was an overtime game, but looks like it is. So we'll see how long that goes. But MarkyDuda playing phenomenally. I actually closed my stats because I am terrible. But just give me a second. I'll bring them up. Basically, Flipside has always been known as that high-pressure series here. Let's go into the other replay since they just got the win there. And I believe it's this one. We'll do that first. We can see more of Marky. Oh, no, I chose the wrong one. I'm a failure. I am a failure. It was this one. My apologies. Go into this next replay. And this game just shows like how much pressure the Flipside gets. And that's what they're known for. They literally just shoot the ball a million times during a game. And just absolutely dominate by doing that. They actually don't have that high of shooting percentages in any season, really. Marky, never really that high in shooting percentage, but in the RLCS season number 1, he was the #1 goal scorer for Europe. But the most impressive part is most of these players that we've talked about, we hear about, like, #1 goal scorer, but then, like, you just don't hear about their assists, because they generally don't have a ton of assists, that they're usually not one-trick ponies, but if they're scoring all the goals, there's not enough room for them to get a lot of assists, because that team doesn't score as many goals. But in the case of Flipside, that is not the case. They score a ton of goals. Their team was #1 in goals per game and #1 in shots per game during RLCS season number 1. And Marky, #1 in goals, #3 in assists. So top 3 in both offensive categories. Phenomenal there. #5 in shooting percentage as well. So usually their shooting percentage isn't amazing, but in this case, Marky during season 1 was pretty on point. And it just started to trend towards RLCS season number 2, where they were more focused on getting the shots and the pressure rather than maybe the best shots ever. It was more about trying to keep the defense on their toes, and it worked out well. So, sure, they might not have the best shooting percentage, but like if you're getting over 10 shots per game, which like Flipside is consistently doing, and no one else is even coming close to that number. Usually, they lead the league in shots per game by 1.5 or 2 shots per game, which is 20% better or 25% better than their next opponents. So absolutely destroy everyone in shots per game, and that's just because they know how to keep possession. They have great ground passing aim. Like as you see here, just over and over again, they're going for ground passes. No other team does it like them. Weedham Girls, they do a lot of backboard passing, and they do some ground passing. Obviously, like the best team in the world is Will, but I wish we had like a stat on how much ground passing like Flipside does and connects with compared to other teams. They rarely use the walls, like as you can see here, just a ton of passing between one another without using walls, because the walls are a lot more readable for the opposing teams. Plus, it's a lot more time wasted by having to wait for the ball to come off the wall, so it could be cut off more so. But like here again, another great pass, a little bit off on the shot, but works out to be a pass anyway, and they get the goal. But that's what Flipside does. They are just absolutely insane. They have been consistently the #1 team. We go into July through September. They participated in 5 of 7 Rocket Royale. So this was the time when Mike Rules was leaving the team for personal reasons, and they were subbing in Greasy Meister. So a couple of these were with Mike Rules, a couple of these were with Greasy Meister, but they came in 2nd and 3rd twice. So they got 4 out of 5 podiums for the regionals, but never got a first place because, again, that Weedham girls squad absolutely dominating the Rocket Royale scene. And then we go into qualifier number 2 as well. They actually got 4th in qualifier number 2 under the controversial DQ where Mike Rules did not show up for the 3rd place game. So they wound up getting the Europe 2nd seed for that LAN, even though they won the first qualifier. But that didn't matter much, except for the problem was they had to play a team called iBuyPower Cosmic for the very first series that they had. An extremely close series, wound up losing 3-2. Then, again, the lower bracket. You never want to see Flipside in a lower bracket. They don't lose. They just don't in lower bracket games. They wound up sweeping the entire lower bracket to make it back to the grand finals, defeating Kings of Urban, Exodus, the Flying Dutchman, and Northern Gaming. Once again, they were looking extremely dominant, but it just seemed like the magic was there for Cosmic for these 2 days, and it showed up in the finals. Flipside absolutely destroyed them on the offensive side, but Cosmic was coming up with 10-plus saves per game. They were just saving everything that Flipside threw at them and just getting the counter plays, and Flipside just couldn't put it in the back of the net. And that magical run by Cosmic was what made Flipside again be the second place bridesmaid, basically. So 2 tournaments, or the 2 majors for the year, coming in 2nd place. I bet Flipside was not happy. They did not seem happy after that loss at RLCS season number 1. But they definitely came back strong, made a great roster move. Because so I was talking to Marky, and like Marky is captain of the team. He's going to be the one probably choosing the player. I assume Cooks here has some input, but I think overall it's going to come down to Marky. And he was talking to me at the airport after RLCS season 1, and he's like, yeah, we're going to just try out a bunch of players, see who fits, see who wants to try out. He was expecting to get probably some Northern Gaming people, or maybe not. Like maybe that was a surprise that someone from Northern Gaming would leave. But he also wanted to try out like Supersonic Avengers members, which they all declined because they wanted to try and play it out for season number 2. But just trying out various players, and they settled on Greasy, which was a great improvement for them. That was like a double-sided effect because it hurt the Weedham Girls squad or Northern Gaming squad a ton, losing Greasy, plus it improved them immensely. And at first it was a little shaky going into season number 2. They didn't play that well. They beat Red Eye 3-2 in their very first game in the RLCS season number 2. But then Greasy was on vacation, like a pre-planned vacation, and one of the most impressive things I thought for Marky and Cooks here was they brought in Jazer, who did not have a ton of competitive experience. He had some, but he was never on like a fantastic team. And so they took Jazer and actually beat 2 very solid teams in Reunited and in Precision Z. Both teams made playoffs. Reunited finished 6th. PZ made the LAN, and they still beat them even with a sub. It was a very impressive feat. And again, their shots per game, just keeping that pressure. In RLCS season number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that Marky, as we said, he was number 1 in goals and number 3 in assists. But at the LAN, too, he was number 1 in assists. And that's like the great thing about both Mark and Cooks is they can do basically both. Goals or assists. Their team is so dynamic in rotations that there is no one man up or one main offensive threat. Marky does generally not play defense as much, but still phenomenal play. Sorry, I got sidetracked. We'll go back to RLCS season number 2. And yeah, they finished 1st in Europe, absolutely destroying Northern Gaming after the Jazer sub came in. Greasy actually was a little bit shaky during week number 3 as well. I think just trying to get back into the swing of things. That's when they actually lost their 2 games. But then they came back strong week number 4, got that practice in, which was like a new mantra for Flipside. Flipside did not practice at all, it seemed like, for the first half of 2016. And then they really started to get more practice in and really started to show in the later weeks of RLCS season number 2. And they just destroyed Northern Gaming 3-0 and then beat them in the championships 4-0. They also defeated PZ once again 4-1 with their full squad in the playoffs and going into the LAN as honestly the biggest favorites we've ever had because their only competition everyone thought was Northern Gaming, and they had beat them 7 straight times in this season, so no one thought that Northern Gaming was going to beat Flipside. And Flipside really showed up. They lost to Markydooda, which I thought might be their one problem team. They also lost to them in the regular season, 3-2, and Markydooda takes the semifinal 3-1. But then again, you don't want to play flipside in that lower bracket. They defeated Take 3, Energy, and Northern Gaming throughout. They actually defeated Take 3 twice, once in the upper bracket as well, and then they got to face Markydooda again. And this time, they finally got over that Grand Finals curse of coming in second place for all the majors this year, defeating Markydooda 4-1, 4-1. One of the best games we saw was the bracket reset. Game number 1 went to a 7-minute and I believe 17-second overtime. And Markydooda actually won that game, but just but then Flipside throws off 4 wins in a row, which is absolutely insane after losing a 12-minute plus game. It's absolutely insane that they can come back and just win 4 in a row versus one of the best teams in the world. Absolutely dominating LAN performance, besides that one hiccup against Markydooda, but they did battle back. And once again, season number 2, the team itself, number 2 goals per game, number 1 shots per game. They were number 1 shots per game in both RLCS 1, the LAN, as well as 2, and the LAN as well. So overall, they just know how to shoot the ball. They don't have the highest shooting percentage, once again, but that pressure is so hard to keep up with. It's so hard to counter against Flipside. And they were also number 1 in shots against per game throughout all of Season 2 and at the LAN. Absolutely dominant performance in pressure, which is what Flipside does best. And Marky, honestly, one of the best players to do it as well. Again, number 1 in goals per game for RLCS Season number 2. Number 1 in shots per game. And then at the LAN, number 3 in assists. Didn't actually get as many goals, but number 3 in assists, once again, like if he's not scoring, he's going to be part of the play no matter what. And number 1 shots per game, once again, just that pressure keeping up on the defensive side. MarkyDuda, phenomenal player. Number 2 on our list here. And most people probably expect number 1, but like you could argue either way for MarkyDuda to be number 1 or number 2. Either way, he played phenomenally all year, and I can't say enough good things about him. His leadership on Flipside is second to none, really. No one else leads like him, and they didn't make many roster moves. They only need 1 roster move in the past, I don't know, what is it, year and a half now? And that was more for personal reasons. They've actually... there was some turmoil, too, before the RLCS Season number 1, where Marky and Cooksier and Mike were thinking about a split for a little while there. Cooksier like even put up, like, if we don't perform at Season number 1, I'll be gone off Flipside more than likely, but they battled back. They figured out their issues, and Marky's one of the best players. In one of his player interviews, he's saying, hey, like, if someone does something new on me, like, I watch it, I learn it, and I add it to my game so then I can beat them the next time. Or he learns it for the defensive side as well. And he's been adapting throughout all of 2015, all of 2016, and it's really showed. I was really happy for them to win their first World Championship. And Flipside, honestly, the most popular team as well in Europe. Probably most popular team now in the world. Probably surpassed G2 at this point, but can't say enough good things about Marky. Just a phenomenal player. Like, so smart. Such wow. And he's our number 2 in the top 10 of 2016. I hope you guys like this, guys, and we'll have another one pretty soon. We got number 1 coming up. Shouldn't be any surprise, but you never know. You never know. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.